Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to the 11th of February episode of the Beer Blades and Bushcraft live stream. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me. Everything was still disconnected from the last live stream that was in the workshop. So I very hurriedly brought everything over and plugged it all in. So if you can hear me, say so. If you cannot, also say so. Tyler says he can hear. That's good. That means I did it right. So what we're going to talk about this time is tool maintenance, cleaning, sharpening, like all this stuff that keeps your tools in good working order. Because you know this saying, take good care of your tools and your tools will take good care of you. That's a truism. And truisms are called truisms because they're kind of true. So let's see who we got here. Tyler and Nick are here. You're both very welcome. I love seeing you guys listening in and saying stuff. Hey, Mike Morton's here. How's it going? Damn it's 85. How's it going? It's nice to see you here. I have two beers sitting here just in case I hate the first one. And if Tyler, if you would bug Outdoor Dauber on Signal and tell him to get on, because this beer here is by Circa Distilleries. Well, it's a what do you call it when two companies work together? It's a collab between the Four Origins microbrewery and Circa Distillery, which is a local like gin and spirits distillery. And it's called Botanic, beer brewed with gin botanicals. And I'm pretty sure Outdoor Dauber is going to love to hear the write-up on the side of this can. So somebody bug him and tell him to get on. Hey, Sash, how's it going? Tenenbaum's here too. Always good to see your name. So as soon as Outdoor Dauber comes on, I'm going to crack this. If I hate this, then I'll have to step off screen for a few seconds to pour it out. And then I will have Crumpet, which is by the same microbrewery. This is your typical English brown ale. Tyler's got a knife that he's going to be sharpening as he watches. Serge probably has something that he can be sharpening as he watches. The rest of you, if you have something to say, feel free to write it down. I'm StreamYarding this. If you want to jump on, contact me in any of the usual ways. I'm not going to just put the link up the way I used to, but I think that there are some really interesting people hanging out with me tonight. So if any of you want to get involved, drop me a note. Hey, Alain's here too, and Winders Ranger. Man, the gang's all here. Gang's all here, guys. Except Outdoor Dauber. And Simon. Outdoor and Simon are not here. Okay. So, how shall we start? How the hell shall we start? Thing is, what I've done is I've brought a few tools here. Hey, HT7's here too. Nice. Nick is eating Kix, cereal, and hand stitching a bandana. Fair enough. Wander's fighting to stay awake. Are you having a long week so far? I had a garbage day at work today, so I'm very glad to be online, talking with some friends. Got my water bottle here. Is this product placement? Is that product placement? I don't think that's product placement because I didn't get paid to do that. Mr. Canoe Hound is not live streaming tonight, which is good news for me because it means that probably more people watching me than usual at this time of night. He's off on some southern vacation with his wife. And I love that guy. I think he's a great guy, and I like his channel. So, where are we going here? Winders is probably recovering from Disney. That is true. Oh, he gets up at 2:50 a.m. for work. Winders, I don't remember. Did you hit up the Star Wars exhibit at Disney? So look, let's get back on track here. There are several different ways of looking at tool maintenance, but they're all kind of just different shades of the same color, you know? Part of it is sharpening. Part of it is washing, oiling, sometimes rehandling, right? Like straight up repairs. So if you snap the haft on your axe, you may have to put a new axe handle on. Most of it, though, is like washing your stuff up when you get back, sharpening up your sharps, or at least stropping them. But it's not only like what I see as your outdoors tools is not only your sharps, your axe, your saws and stuff. It's also stuff like your pots, right? I mean, this is more of a vessel, but I see it as an outdoors tool because it's something I use to enhance my experience of sitting in the forest all by myself and loving that. You know, you can't come back from an overnighter or a week in the woods or something and just sort of throw your stuff in the corner. You know, you get home from a winter camping trip, you just roll up your canvas tent, throw it in the closet. You can't do this because your stuff will get rotted, rusted, and just generally it'll start to break down on you. And when your tools are starting to break down on you, any one of them could fail you when you really, really need it the most. You know, so part of it is a self-preservation thing, making sure that your tools are in tip-top shape just in case the poopy hits the fan while you're out in the woods. But I also see it as a respect thing. You know, I spend a lot of money on my tools. This F1 is not a cheap knife. You know, so if you're going to own it, care for it. Don't let it go to pot. Don't let it rust away on you. Well, it's stainless. You'll have to work pretty hard to let it rust away on you. But you know what I'm saying? You've got to respect the tools you use because they play a part in your outdoor enjoyment, in your enjoyment of the outdoors. It's part of the jigsaw puzzle that is a really good weekend out, or a good week out, or a good month out, or, man, I don't know. Mike, Mr. Morton, what was the longest trip you ever took? You know, what was the longest trip you ever took? And imagine that trip with tools that are breaking down on you every couple of days. Hey, avid outdoorsy guy, how's it going? I could ask you the same question I just asked Mike. You know, those of you guys who are out there a lot, you know, for longer trips and stuff, imagine that you didn't take care of your stuff, so it's breaking down on you. You know, imagine your canoe. You know, I'm not exactly sure how easy it is to get a hole in one of these fancy canoes, but you know what I'm saying. It's about self-preservation. It's about respect. It's about knowing what you paid for something and making sure that you don't waste that money. You know. And so, by the way, if it looks like I'm doing this a lot, it's because I have a canker right on my lip and it's driving me nuts. So I'm sorry, guys, but it's bugging me. So, okay, here's my process. When I get back from anything, afternoon in the woods, overnighter, longer trip. I mean, I'm not doing a whole lot of overnighters and longer trips, but I have in the past, and it's the same process. I get home, I drop my bag at the door, I take my shoes off and stuff. I usually, you know, put a kettle on for tea, and then at the very latest, after supper that night, like the very latest, because if you get home with a bunch of tools that are all wet, especially if it's something that's a high carbon steel, time is of the essence, right? You know, this has remained relatively unstained because I don't let it go for days between getting home and cleaning this baby up. I have very seldomly had to sand the flats to get rust or even patina off it, you know? So what I do is I get back, I relax a little bit, you know, make a cup of tea, and then I go and I take all the tools and the pots and stuff out, fill the sink with water, and I wash it all up immediately. The reason I wash it before sharpening and stropping, because fairly often after sharpening and stropping, you kind of got to at least rinse these things off again, is because if I've got grit on all over my blades. I don't want to get that grit into my strop, right? I want to maintain as good a surface here as possible. This strop has already got a whole bunch of dings in it, but it's not full of grit, because I will wash the knives and the axes off before I do that level of maintenance. And then I will often just do another quick wash and then dry them off, oil them up, put them back in their sheaths. One thing that I do, and I've heard that there are other philosophies on this, is some people like oil it up, let it dry, and then put it away. I oil it up and I put it away right away, because I feel, but I'm no expert, that getting oil on the inside of this is only going to help keep the rust at bay, and might even help keep the leather a little supple from the inside out. You know, hold on, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anyone. Or Alan could sharpen knives for a week. Yep. Damn it says same things I said earlier. Take care of your tools and they'll take care of you. Mike says it's tough to keep stuff clean. Last fall, 6 rainy days on a canoe trip. Your outdoor axe looked pretty ugly. Yeah, I can well imagine. Days and days of rain can really do a number on carbon steel. How much work did it take to get it back up to speed when you got back? LA, I agree. A hole in a canoe halfway down river puts a damper on your camping trip. I see what you did there. Avid outdoorsy guy. I've made the mistake of being lazy when I get home and waiting a few days. Before cleaning my gear, and actually ruined a few things from mold. Exactly. I also speak from experience here. So, I get you, brother. I get you. But this is also true. It's just really hard sometimes to get motivation to even touch camping gear after a week of using it in the wilderness. Yeah, I know that. I get that. But the gear doesn't, it's kind of the same as I say when, like, I got to get my daughter out to school, and she's like, but I don't know, but I would throw a little excuse in there. Anything that's like, oh, but I hurt my knee or something. I was like, but time doesn't stop for that. The school bell doesn't ring any later. You know what I'm saying? And in the same way, like, because, I don't want to break open all my tools and start doing maintenance after getting home from any trip. But the rust that, the moisture on this blade will rust the blade, whether I feel like cleaning it off or not, And because I have ruined a few things, I just, no matter how tired I am, sorry guys, no matter how tired I am, cup of tea, get to work, Oh, maybe an hour to get that axe clean again. That's good. Yeah. Uh-oh. LA, I lent a tent to my sister once and it got wet. They didn't tell me it got moldy. Oh. Yeah, never trust anyone. I will not lend someone my axe. I will not lend someone my knife. I will lend someone, do I have it here? Yes. I will lend someone my silky, because the blade is replaceable. They ain't cheap, but it's replaceable. In fact, they're made to be replaced. Like, it's really hard to do maintenance on this. The way the teeth are hardened, you're not sharpening it. You sure as hell ain't stropping it. Just about all you can do is give it like a wipe down and maybe oil it up, but it's a stainless blade anyway, if I remember correctly. So this is probably the tool that I take the least care of. I mean, you can see it's still pretty schmutzy, even though I've been wiping it down when I get it home. But because this is this is a very, it's a, I don't want to say it's a plebeian tool, but it doesn't have the same character and the same excitement factor as a knife or an axe. And it's cheap. And this part is literally a consumable item. So this I'll lend. But like, I've let Serge use one of my axes very briefly, just because I was trying to be a nice guy at that time. But you never lend someone, especially not your favorite axe. If you got like one of those Fiskars, I use one of those Fiskars things as a grubbing axe, I'll lend that one out. Hold on. Elaine's brother Serge kicks in. Don't let nothing to your sister. Yeah, okay, so it seems that like a lot of you guys are agreeing with me, you know. So but like let me throw that out to you guys. Like, Mike, when you get home and it's time to maintain your gear, like what's the first thing you do? Do you do like me? Do you wash everything first, or do you start doing sharpening first, or what? I don't even sharpen everything after every trip. I'll strop after every trip, but I don't. Every time you take stones or something to one of these, you're removing metal, right? So I want to do that as seldom as possible. So I have become, excuse me, guys, I have become an avid stropper because people who tell you that if you strop all the time, you'll never have to sharpen, no, forget about it. But the more you strop, the less often you have to sharpen, you know? Because you are maintaining the edge. Hold on. Abbott says something interesting. That's a good point. Fabrics always come first for me. Got to get everything dry and, if necessary, cleaned. Because fabrics don't come first for me in terms of I just got in, I got to wash my pants and my, you know. But I do empty my bag. Whole, like all the fabric get emptied right into the laundry, and I make sure that laundry goes in that day. Rarely I've let it slip to the next day, but I do want it to get in that day for two reasons. First of all, just in case. Second of all, the missus doesn't like it when the laundry hamper reeks of wood smoke. I do like that, but you know. Okay, Serge clarified. You didn't borrow your axe. Let me try it. That's a good point. Mike doesn't even take his shoes off. Right to the garage, pull everything out to hang it up, axe and knife out of sheath just in case, then it will strop, avoid the stones like the plague. Yep. I also take everything out of their sheaths right away just in case there's a lot of moisture inside those sheaths. By the way, just a little side. Who's got a beer? Because I'm thinking of opening this. I don't know if Outdoor Dauber is coming on tonight. So maybe I'll just open it, you know. Mike doesn't strop every trip either. Depends on how much it gets used. Yeah, that's true. If I only use my axe like a couple of times, I might let it, you know, I might go straight to the cleaning. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna pop this botanic, and then we'll get back on track. Okay, so what this says is every beer has its own story. This beer is about botanicals. While we specialize in beer, we love gin. As such, we've been working this little number for you with our good friends at Circa Distilleries. We can't distill gin, but we can brew a beer that reminds us of those fantastic aromatics. Let's see how good this is. I like what Alain says here. This probably comes from his experience with his sister. I have a new mentality on my stuff. You broke it, you bought it. That's not a bad philosophy to have. Just let me pour. Well, sure ain't a dark beer. But, you know, the thing is, you can't really get away with a lot of really botanical flavors and stuff with something heavy like a porter or a stout, you know? Ooh, it does kind of smell a little ginny. Hey, Rob. Oh. I don't know what's going on. It's like a rose garden up in there or something. Well, it's like, I don't know, juniper or something evergreeny. So there's like a little rosemary in there. There's a berry of some sort. Some orange. Whoo! I don't know, man. Serge, I nearly accidentally killed my cat. He jumped on me while stropping my knife. Yikes. Oh man, that's weird. That's like that's like you're sitting in a juniper bush with a handful of like oranges and rosemary and rose hips or something. And it's sort of like it causes a real cool thing in my mouth. Interesting. All right, hold on. What Tyler says here. No beer, but I think we started too late in the maintenance chain. Maintenance starts with the way you use it. I keep a hunk of beeswax or microcrystalline stuff for my knives when I'm out. Okay. Excuse me. That's not a bad point. I hadn't really seen it that way, but that's a pretty legit point. And the reason why I think that's a legit point is because the Fiskars that I use as my grubbing axe is the one I don't baby. Is the one I don't treat like something special when I'm out in the woods. You know, I'm not one of these guys who uses an axe and then just sort of, you know, you take it and you sort of flop it down sideways so it lands on the side of the head. Hopefully, I don't do that. I use my axe and then I put it down. The Fiskars, I'll use it and I'll just drop. You know, I that one I literally don't care about. I do almost no maintenance on it. Every now and again, I'll sharpen it back up with a file, but I'm not stropping. I'm not doing anything. I'm not even taking the chunks out. Like I'm not resharpening the chips that have been knocked out of it. You know, it's a straight up. Hold on. It's a straight up gardening tool practically. My knives I treat very well, even like my moras. All this nonsense about, you know, if you break your mora, it's okay, you can throw it away. No, I'm not into disposable culture. I've said this, a lot of you guys have heard me say this time and again. I'm not into disposable culture, you know. So even if it's a mora, I'm going to take care of that knife in the field. Because yeah, what Tyler's saying right here, what I've got on the screen right there, it's a very legit point, even if it's one that I didn't really think of at first. I don't carry beeswax with me, but I usually carry a little mineral oil. And I've got some little business card sized diamond plates, just in case I get a nick or something out of a blade, you know, through sheer stupidity. Hold on. Robin is taking Serge to task for his word choice. Word choice. Alain, shame on you. You've got some nice gear. Laziness, no way, man. But here's something Mike Morton said. Pro tip: I take an old Burt's Bees chapstick, empty, and melt some Openoffs into it. Perfect for field use on sheets or on a blade or axe. No mess and easy application. That's a good freaking idea. That is a pro tip. That's like a tool maintenance hack right there. It's a hack, as Scrambled would say. I'm just digging through my tools here. My tools. But yeah, you know, about as far down that road as I go in the field is really little diamond stones. I might bring my strop, but it's pretty long, you know. I like a paddle strop, but it's hard to pack that, so I don't always bring that. And maybe a little mineral oil. All of my sharps get mineral oil treatment. I don't do WD-40. I don't do gun oil or anything because I'm never sure when one of my sharps is going to get used for, you know, carving something for food prep or like a spoon or something. So I don't want to poison myself because I used gun oil on the axe I used to carve the spoon or something, you know. So it's food grade mineral oil on everything. spoon knives, knives, axes, anything that's a carbon steel. Also, what's nice about having a little thing of oil along is if you get your knife or your axe or your saw like totally gummed up with like pine sap or something, oil can be a really, it's not effort free, but oil is a hell of a lot better than the water from a stream in getting sap or resin off your metals, your sharps. Oh, Ellen, you big softy. You love your moras. Oh, I didn't know that. Mike Martin just said something very interesting, which has not yet popped up in the StreamYard window, so I can't share it with you quite yet. But yeah. There we go. Boom. Mike Martin uses mineral oil at home as well. Good man. The Obanoffs is food safe and can be used as chapstick. I didn't know that Obanoffs was food safe. That's interesting. I never knew that. Oh, excuse me, guys. Sailor's off to get a cup of tea. Good man. Tea's a good drink. Which Obanoffs do you use, Mike? I keep looking at Obanoffs at Amazon.ca and coming up with like the leather treatment. You know, a little jar. You like a liquid that you just sort of. But is there like more of a waxy Obanoffs then? Hold on. Oh, he actually answered this. It's basically beeswax and propolis. I think all natural. Interesting. The heavy duty LP. Okay, I'm gonna take another look at it. It's expensive as hell, though, eh? But yeah, because I started going into what I do on the metal stuff. You know, sharpener strop, more likely strop. Give it a wash, dry it up, oil it up, and then put it in the sheath right away while there's still a lot of oil on the blade, because I like getting the inside of the leather nice and oiled up. But like on the outside of these sheaths, in the past I've used like shoe polish or whatever. But I've been looking for something more like Snow Seal or Obanoffs. I don't know which of those two is better. People seem to love them both, but I really want to get more into that for the leathers, the leather parts. Just because shoe polish. I've used shoe polish on this. No, not on this. On my Gransfors axes and my Wetterlings. They've all been shoe polished up as a protectant. It's all right. It's just like still smeary. You know, it's like I'm back in the Air Cadets polishing up my boots. So I've been wanting to try the Obanoffs or the Snow Seal. I may have to just take the hit and order some. I'm wondering if there's a cheaper place than Amazon.ca though. I don't know. But Mike, if you're using it, I should probably just give it a try. And Tenenbaum says it's pricey, but it's great stuff. Mike says, but not cheap, but goes a long way. That's good to know. I'm not talking very well tonight, guys. Sorry about that. So, leather, you got to treat your leather because otherwise it'll rot out on you. If you've got something more like this, you don't need to treat this. I would wash it up a little bit just to keep it, neat and tidy. What's nice is the hole in the bottom, so that if you do get water inside, it drains out. But that doesn't mean you come home and you just sort of pop this off your bag or whatever and throw it down. No. I still take this out. I pop it off. prop it in the dish rack upside down because there's a lot more space for any water that may be in there to drain out there than through that, right? So upside down like that, and then I go to town drying or washing and drying this off. This is stainless. It doesn't need an oil coating. Every now and again I put one on anyway, just because I'm not OCD, but there's really no reason to do it. And then once everything's dry, like I'll leave my stuff dry overnight until it's bone dry before I go putting it back together, even if I've oiled up. See, here's the thing. I skipped a stage. I wash it, I dry it, and as soon as it's dry, you know, because sometimes you'll wash something up, you'll wipe it down, and it's still just traces of water there and stuff. No, once that's all dry, then I will oil it up as soon as possible because what the oil does is keeps even just ambient moisture from starting to attack the metal, right? So once it's dry, so I wash it, I wipe it down, and I leave it in the rack for whatever, an hour or two, something like that. But that night, preferably within just a couple of hours, but that night for sure, this gets oiled up. Okay, mineral oil on this, and then I'll use a boiled linseed on the wood. You can use mineral oil on the wood if you want, but I started putting boiled linseed on this, and I just, in my head, boiled linseed goes on the wood, mineral oil goes on the metal, because that's the way it is for my axes. There's really, I don't think there's a reason not to use mineral oil on your wood as well. Some people say, well, you know, the boiled linseed fills the pores, protects the blah, blah, blah. No. It's not enough of a protectant to get too religious about that, you know. Use an oil. Some people, look, I know some guys who use canola oil. I wouldn't. I want an oil that is not prone to going rancid. But all kinds of, any kind of fat will protect your wood and your metal. That does not mean you should go smearing your stuff with butter, because that's gross. Hold on. Wow, Tyler, you already got the chip out? I guess it wasn't that big a chip. Good work, no matter what. I'm just taking a look. Winders. I have a paste-like stuff that I like, but can't remember the name. It's something like Lightning 109 or something like that. Works well as a rust inhibitor or a lubricant, and is food safe. Well, if you ever find out what that is, drop me a note, because I'd love to know. It's weird because Tyler says, you mean a lipid, not a fat. Whatevs, dude. We're being conversational here. However, hold on. Really, avid outdoorsy guy says, I watched Dave Canterbury butcher a raccoon, then rub the fat on his leather boots for waterproofing one time. That's a little hardcore. That's a little more hardcore than I would be. But he's maintaining his stuff, right? Serge. Oh, okay. You went rough on it, Tyler. Okay. Oops. True, I've never seen a Rusty. So then, after rubbing the fat all over his boots, they ate the chili. I would love to have tried that. Okay, take another sip. You know, it's funny because in the corner right there, it says I've been live for 5 hours and 34 minutes, which I have not. In the corner of my computer screen, it says it's 2:34 a.m. because for some reason in Windows on this machine cannot keep the time. So that means that in order to keep track of how long I've been on here, I have to use my phone, even though there are timekeepers all over. But I just wanted to let you guys know I'm keeping an eye. We've been We've been hanging together for 35 minutes. Just saying. I'm just looking to make sure I'm not missing anyone's comments. There's 12 of us hanging out. That's pretty cool. Is there anyone out there who hasn't said anything yet? Say hi. Say hi so we can say hi back. So while we're at it, for the wood parts, as I said, it's going to be boiled linseed oil. There's a lot of controversy around boiled linseed oil that some people think really needs to happen. I don't know if it really does. The fact is, a lot of modern boiled linseed oil is not really boiled. There's a bunch of chemical solvents in there to replicate the boiling process to get it to dry within 24 hours and stuff. You can still buy fully boiled, like traditional boiled linseed oil. It ain't cheap. Robin, in fact, every now and again sends me a link to a place that sells it. At the end of the day, I want an oil that penetrates but doesn't take a month to dry. So it's not going to be raw linseed oil, though apparently it penetrates way better. When I got this new, which was fairly recently, you're going to see this baby in action in a video very soon, guys. When this thing first came, let me flip it over so that the writing's not upside down. It was a coating once a day for a week. A lot of you guys have heard this way too often. Sorry, but it's a great philosophy. Coat it every day for a week, then once a week for a month, then once a month for a year. And then what I do is at the beginning, the end, at the beginning and the end of the season, I'll throw a coating on there. And like if I go into the woods and it gets like really kicked around or wet or something, I'll wash it down, dry it off, and then put another coating on. As you oil these, they get darker over time and they just get beautiful looking. My small forest axe, after I think over a half decade now, it's got a real nice it's got a nice darker kind of chestnutty look to it. And that's just through use, dirty hands, hand sweat, coats of oil. All that will, it's got under the oil, like there are some spots that were like pine resin or balsam fir resin or whatever. Like it's just, the axe has been used and it looks like it, and it's got this nice BLO smell to it. And it's, this one hasn't really been used yet, but I've been oiling it up like you should, because it's going to get used a whole lot this year. In fact, what I'm thinking of doing, because it's such a different length than I'm used to with my small forest axe, I'm thinking of leaving the small forest axe home for a few trips, just to force myself to get used to this beautiful little tool. See, how different it is without having the safety blanket there. Safety net? Comfort blanket? What was it called? A safety blanket? English is tough. French is tougher. Anyway, without the safety net of having, my familiar axe with me. Mountain View, turning. Hello. Everyone say hi to Mountain View. How's it going? We're talking about tool maintenance tonight. So if you want to get way involved in the conversation down the side there, I absolutely invite you. Alain, yeah, I sent Alain a video of I don't remember. Crap, it's a guy I watch all the time. Who was it? Silva Spoon, whapping out a spoon blank in like no time. Very impressive, because I don't carve enough spoons anymore to have kept my skills really up. I should really get more into it. I find that hold on, A sticky axe won't slip out of your hands, though. Well, that's a good point. But actually, Alain, because you're talking about spoon carving, I may as well show this because this takes a very specific set of maintenance tasks because it ain't straight. So there are several ways to do this. One, right, you can just start, which a lot of people do. Others sort of just do this, right? Zip, piss. It's hard because I'm backwards on the screen. Yeah, zip and then zip and then zip and then zip. I prefer to sort of like this as I go along. I cycle it over. This is real hard to do. Okay, this is tough, and especially because I've been very, very slowly. Let's put it in front of something light. Reprofiling the grind, because the guy who forged this is not a blacksmith. Okay, he's a spoon and kuksa carver, and just the surface, like this way, was not quite conducive to getting a real good carve going. It was like it sort of bumped out a little bit, so it was hard to get a real smooth move. So over the years, like every time I do this, I just sort of take a little bit of that bump out, a little bit more, a little flatten it just a little bit more. And then what I'll do, I don't sharpen the inside of it, but I will strop the inside of it. Just sort of, this is, dowel, piece of leather, little bit of green, whatever it's called, compound, and just like that, Because what they don't tend to tell you is that this grit stuff does remove metal. It does really, really help in a very, very minute way. But one thing it's really good at is if you do enough stropping, it polishes that up real good on any, on your metals, no matter which, no matter which strop you got going, no matter what. It's a really good way to just polish it up, get very, very minute sort of edge. Like what it does is it realigns the microscopic little sort of teeth from the sharpening. It just realigns everything, makes the edge much more durable if you strop a lot. You should definitely strop your tools all the freaking time. I made this silly little leather thong to go on it because you really need to keep these blades covered. And the last thing you want to do, trust me, is reach into your toolbox and drag your knuckle across this blade because, well, it was a weird shape, so I didn't have a sheath on it. No. I mean, if you're wearing a ring, you might wreck the blade. There we go. And, I'd like to know what you guys use for sharpening. Hold on. Mike, Mike's out of here. Sorry, I missed that. Have a good night, mister. Is this a king whetstone? This is... I think it's a king whetstone by a different name. Right, because it's the Lee Valley one, but I'm pretty sure it's king. Like, I think it said king. Like, on this side it says made in Japan, but I think on the other side it used to say king. I think Lee Valley is using a different stone now, but I'm pretty sure this was a king one. Like, depending on the tool I'm sharpening, I will either use stone, right? Especially if, okay, here's something I've been doing lately. I use it a lot more for things like plane blades and chisels, but sometimes for an axe it really works as well. This is float glass or whatever with whatever this film is called. It's a sharpening film. It's a micro finishing film or whatever. Starts off at 100 micron, comes down. That's 100 micron. This is 30. This is 9, 3.6, and like this is practically glass. Edge correction, edge massaging, polishing, glossy, really freaking glossy. This is a great solution for a lot of different contexts, but it's not great for like my bush knives. I've had some success with axes on it just as an experiment, because that really is more of a workshop kind of sharpening system. Hold on. Excuse me, guys. Fucking sinuses again. Good old LA. I use the bottom of a cup to sharpen my knives. I do know people who have done that before, and it's not a bad method in a pinch. You can even use the edge of your car window, just to sort of finish off your blade if you're out there in the woods and you're really sort of hard done by. So yeah, stones, those micro finishing cloths somewhere around here. I keep the lights off so that like I pop out from the background and everything, but it does kind of make it hard to find things. Oh, that's a hard drive. Did I forget to bring it? I may have forgotten to bring it. Well, it's getting boring now for me, to be just staring at the desk and looking for it. So I'll just say one of those, those sanding things that you put on, like painters will use them, for sanding or drywall guys. It's like a real thin layer of sponge. You take sort of those long, sandpaper that's like this, wrap it around, click. Now, one of those is great, especially on an axe, what they call the rooster method. You take the axe, you put it on your lap, you take that thing with some sandpaper on it. Yeah, I guess that's where that knife went. I guess we're about to bring it. Anyways, and you take this, whatever it is, drywall sanding thing with some sandpaper on it, and you just here take your leather off, and you just sort of go across it. First this way and then this way, because if you really want to sharpen faster and get a lot more stuff happening, you cross hatch it, right? Whoomp, 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 whoomp. And so the rooster method will get you scary sharp and no time flat. No time flat. I tend to use what I call the reverse rooster. It's essentially the same concept, but I put a mouse pad down, put the sandpaper on that, and then I move the axe across it. I'm thinking of revisiting that and trying the straight up rooster again fairly soon. A lot of people have a lot of success with it. I was just already I had a mouse pad and I didn't have one of those sanding things, so I came up with my own take on it, sort of out of necessity. Giving a diamond plate block with 4 grits. Yeah, give it a try. I mean, look, you're not going to wreck your knife by trying out different sharpening systems. I mean, I've been sharpening this knife since way before I was any good at sharpening, and I'm still not great at it. I found here to here is very easy. Here is very easy, but getting this curve, the belly here, tough, man. I'm still not good at that. I still sort of keep working on. Hey, Austin's here. How's it going? Alan was, boom. Was considering trying the DMT, minor DMT, by the way. 8-inch dia sharp, continuous diamond extra fine. Yeah, $80, eh? Yeah. Try saddles first. Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because with diamond plates, if you don't spend some money on them, sort of second-rate diamond plates aren't as good as diamond plates always are. Cheap stones, cheap diamond plates, cheap sandpaper that leaves little bits of sand everywhere as you use it. There's good stuff and there's not good stuff across the board. No matter what the sharpening method is, you can make a mistake by going way too affordable, and you can spend too much. You can go beyond sort of the price performance peak. Go way into sort of. You can spend too much. Sometimes you gotta work at it to find that happy medium. Trying out other people's stuff is an excellent way to figure out whether or not you like a method or a tool. That's for sure. I definitely back that concept. Yeah, I guess I forgot that sanding thing. It's too bad because I wanted to show it. Oh well. It's just the way it is sometimes. Yes, the cheap plates definitely do wear very fast. Yep, absolutely. Because the way the grit is bound onto the plate is different, Excuse me. I'm glad Outdoor's not keeping track of how many yawns I do. That's a weird beer, man. You see this? See how it's, even though it's black, you can see how it's discolored, right? That is from the heat and stuff. It's like, it's clean. I clean this. I love how used and discolored it's looking, but not enough to leave it dirty, Like my stuff is used and enjoyed, but I don't leave it schmutzy. So whenever you see, it's off color, it's really because of, the heat on the material itself. This thing is absolutely clean every time I get back. I wash it out, pristine. It's a little dusty actually because I haven't been able to get out in a while. And just as an aside, as you guys know, because those of you who've been watching a long time know, I do love the Morris pot. I think this is a terrific, terrific pot. Part of me wants to try out those Zebra, the Billy cans, but it's hard to justify when I've already got such a good pot, Because these things all cost money, But yeah, I take care of that as well. Take care of my 11 centimeter tea can that you guys have seen, the white one with the cup upside down on it. When I dropped it and broke a great big medallion of the enamel off the bottom, it kind of broke my heart. I'd like to get another one of those one day, replace this one. But that, it's white, so it comes back from the woods filthy, but I wash it up every time. It's still, it's getting off white, it's getting used up, but it's pristine, man. And I bring a tea towel into the woods every time. Once I'm finished using it, I'll just give it a wipe down. When I get home, who cares? I throw the tea towel in the laundry. But it's just because, if stuff starts to dry onto your pots, halfway home. It's a lot harder to get it off, and you're not always next to a stream where you can just rinse your stuff. So just in case, I always have a tea towel, and if I am next to a stream, I rinse it off and then I dry it. I still wash it again when I get home. Tea towel still goes in the laundry, but if in fact it's funny because it's exactly what Tyler was saying. Maintenance starts when you're in the bush. It starts with how you're using your tools. Oh, Serge just put a link to the to his diamond thing. Interesting. I have never seen that. I have literally never seen that. I would love to know what your thoughts are on that after some long-term use, Serge. If we could convince Serge to get a channel going, I would love to see a long-term review. But hey. What was I saying? Oh yeah, about how it starts when you're in the woods. Sometimes your gear needs a bit more love. I don't know how many of you guys have one of those 2-burner Coleman stoves. The old-fashioned Coleman stove. You'd stick a bottle of gas on, and I turn it on and throw a match in and light up a burner. Nowadays, they come with like a push button, like a little piezo thing. Whatever. That's a solution in search of a problem, if you ask me. Throw a match on it. Fell down behind me. It's a little chilly down here in the basement. Sometimes you got to rebuild stuff like that. Sometimes you need to replace all your O-rings. Like maybe there's some corrosion on one of the hoses or the pipe or something, and you got to deal with that. You can buy kits for stuff like that. If you're uncomfortable with repairing gear because you don't feel that you're handy, surprise, you are. If you're doing bushcraft, if you're doing canoeing, if you're a maker, you are so much handier than you think you are. And it is so much better to repair something, especially like a Coleman stove. They're not that expensive, but don't throw stuff in the landfill if you don't have to. A, better for the planet. B, way better for your wallet. A rebuild kit for a stove or a lantern versus buying a new stove or a new lantern. And I have long history of being the type who's like, I'm just going to buy a new one. I want to have the shiny new one. This one, forget about it. But no. And it's not even, now as a father, I want my kids to have a better world. I mean, yes, but I started before that. Because I have this philosophy that if ever you start a sentence with, as a father, I, or as a mother, I, finish it with something like, always try to be the best dad I can. None of this are, suddenly as a parent, you care about, safety for women or, having a planet for the next generation to grow up in. Because these problems were still there before you had kids, And so it's not, oh, now I'm a dad, I want to save the world for my children. It's even before that, I was like, why would I throw this stove in the earth and buy a new one? When I can save the money by buying the kit, I can give myself a sense of accomplishment by learning how to do this because I've never been very handy. It's very late in life for me. Before I recycled my car, I replaced a dump truck, took my mirror off. My driver's side mirror off once, so I eBayed a replacement 98 Camry mirror and put it on just as a note. I don't know about other cars, but on the 98 Camry, you have to take the entire door apart to replace that mirror. I did my own brakes. I taught myself. That's a stinking lie. I did a mix of teaching myself through like YouTubes and stuff, and leaning on friends with knowledge to learn how to do my own maintenance. And on a car, it's almost a no-brainer because everything on that car is so expensive. Buying the parts and doing it yourself saves you like over half the money of going to the garage. Because, first of all, you're taking one of the middlemen out of your parts purchase, and you're not paying like whatever $60 an hour for labor, And it's the same with stuff that you take into the woods. Look, like Tyler, tonight he's taking like a 5mm ding out of a blade and sharpening up the knife. I don't know if it's a Mora or if it's one that he's made or if it's something expensive that he's doing, but it shouldn't matter what it is. It's like what I said before. It's not a legit philosophy to me that if you break your Mora, you can throw it away. Don't break the Mora. Take care of it. Don't throw it away. Don't throw stuff away. The handles on these things are plastic. They hang around forever. And come on, it's as I said, respect your tools. Ellie has the stove I'm talking about. It was your dad's. I would have liked to have met your dad, guys. Where was I before I got all kind of discombobulated over? But like this thing here. This knife is like $14 on Amazon.ca Canadian. Okay, I think it's like $8 US. It's got a plastic handle. It's a good feeling handle, but it's plastic. It's just a cheap ass metal. It's not even like say anything. It's a German 4116 stainless. This is a bottom end knife. I'm still going to sharpen it. I'm still going to strop it. I'm still going to take care of it. I'm still going to respect it because at the end of the day, it's better to have the tool than to break the tool. It's better to have the tool than to break the tool. It's better to have the stove than to break the stove. The nice thing about the stove is once it's broken, you can rebuild it. Never forget that. It's better to have the canoe than to ding the canoe to pieces, and that stove is $30 now. I bought mine secondhand for $20, but they're bomb proof. While we're at it, a plastic handled knife is dead easy to care for because you just wash down the plastic. But I do have a real preference for a nice wooden handle. There's more pageantry involved in it. There's more maintenance involved with it, right? Because you're not going to use harsh soaps on this. You're going to rinse it off, pat it down. Well, rub it with a soft cloth or whatever. Then you're going to dry it and oil it and everything. But come on, the feeling of wood, especially on a cold day, man. Feeling of wood where it's not freezing in your hand versus like plastic gets brittle feeling if it's 40 below. But you can't beat. Look at that. That's desert ironwood, guys. Desert freaking ironwood. I still say I wish I'd thought to order yellow liners instead of black, but I'm just going to live with that. Because this is apparently still the only Campbell Bushcraft knife in North America and Canada. Way more maintenance, but so worth it. So epically worth it. Look at that color. Look at that color. And, even the desert ironwood, over time, as you oil it up, starts to change color, starts to maybe get a little darker, maybe not really darker, maybe just more like the colors get more vibrant. Because on this one, what happened was the colors have been getting more became more vibrant after oiling. It's kind of like what happens when you have a piece of like spalted maple or something, and you take a wet cloth and swoop it across, and suddenly all the figuring goes pop. That's what happened with this. Because before I'd oiled it the first time, it didn't pop like that. It was a dark wood. I could see there was figuring in there, but not much. Just showing it off here, guys. It's a very nice knife. And it was cheap as chips because the guy was not a big name. Jeb Campbell in Australia. Please note, I keep showing this off the Morris Kahansky approved flat scales rather than the full-on round ones. It does take a lot more maintenance, though. I could practically throw this. In fact, I could probably just throw this in the dishwasher. Over time, the plastic tends to sort of get a little fuzzy and start to go on you, but it doesn't catastrophically fail. It just starts looking kind of scrappy, But I think the extra maintenance on wood is worth it because the wood just looks so good after it's been cleaned up and oiled. For those of you who have like canvas tents, is that outdoorsy guy still here? I don't know, we're done. For something like that, it's a whole different story, because for your fabric stuff, your tents, tarps, clothing, you're not doing them at the kitchen sink, or maybe you have to wash something by hand, but it's Alain, he likes my micarta. Like for a canvas tent, you got to find a place to drape that. You got to find a place to drape that because you can't roll it up and throw it in the dryer. The reason I'm thinking about this is because I saw Kevin Callan had a picture up on Facebook of him drying out his tent after he got home from a trip, and it's draped across his living room. If my wife ever came home and saw a tent draped across the living room, I would be sleeping in the basement for a month. You know what I'm saying? But you do need to find a place to dry out that tent because you don't want something that expensive to start rotting away on you. It wouldn't necessarily rot the very first time, but if that, sorry guys, if that's like a pattern of behavior that you've set, forget about it. These tents are expensive, man. These are like $1,600 tents, Canadian, or like $1,200 tents or something. You can't just let those rot away. Even if I had 30 mil in the bank, I would still take care of my stuff because having the ability to just buy your stuff again doesn't mean that you have to. You don't have to have the newest tent or axe every 2 years. Oh, hold on.
Why? Hello.
Tyler's here, but he's got no.
Oop. Am I live? Can I be heard?
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
How long have you been waiting? I sort of got carried away just blithering.
It's been like 2 minutes. Don't even worry about it, man.
Okay.
There is a fun point. I guess is not the word. Point that I wanted to make about tools. We talk about doing all the tool maintenance, but there is a surprising amount of tooling going into this that you need to maintain your nice things.
Yeah.
And there's kind of this old world attitude about not buying something unless you can buy all the things necessary to care for it. Like you wouldn't buy a bespoke pair of shoes unless you could afford the custom lasts and conditioners and shoe bags to go with them. And I kind of
Fair.
wanted to get on and make that point for a second that, you know, you really, if you're going to buy one of these tools, you should be ready to invest in the things to care for it, whether, it's a knife and you're getting, some ridiculously nice whetstones, what have you, or an axe and you're getting, a natural whetstone puck or something like that,
Yes.
if you buy an Autine or something crazy, or a tent, buying a setup, to dry those things. What's a portable greenhouse cost these days? The cheap PVC ones, what, 20, 25, $50, depending on where you go. We can get them that cheap. I mean, you can do it with PVC and plastic wrap here. But that concept, a lot of my tools I didn't even buy until after I had the maintenance set up to deal with them. So I'm blessed enough to be in a spot where I can get all of these antique whetstones and things. Like I have a Norton Queer Creek, which they just can't make anymore. And I've got a Jasper whetstone that I adore. Stuff like that. I'm not buying the tools unless I know I can care for them. And I think there's definitely something to be said for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely does make sense. Because a $1,200 knife is still gonna rust and go dull. It the extra money you pay doesn't create a knife that is free of maintenance requirements. It just means a knife that was maybe handmade and looks beautiful. So why would you spend that money if you don't have either the equipment or the skills to take care of it? The skills you can develop, right? I have developed most of my skills through the the wonder of like YouTube or having friends who know how to do something and just sort of sit down with me and show me where I'm going wrong, kind of thing. But so many people buy things without thinking about what the maintenance costs will be if you don't learn to do it yourself, or the maintenance costs are when it comes to, as you said, getting the equipment to maintain your stuff. And I think that more people should look at it the way you are, in that, no, I'm not going to spend the $1,200 on the knife until. Okay, here's a perfect example. I want Japanese kitchen knives. Okay, I want them like I want Mila Kunis. Okay, I want a nice set of Japanese kitchen knives. I do not feel that my sharpening is yet good enough to deserve those knives.
Bingo.
So I don't have them. But I'll tell you one thing: I am freehand sharpening all my kitchen knives because every time I do it, I get better at it.
Yeah.
And when I finally feel, okay, I'm ready, then I'm going to take all my little dollars.
Little dollars.
And get me a nice set of Japanese kitchen knives.
There's something to be said there too.
Yeah.
Someone, for those of us who are musicians or maybe not, I guarantee you'll understand this analogy. There is someone who plays on a $50 guitar for 25 years and then buys a $12,000 guitar as they are ready for it.
Yeah.
And they sound amazing by the end of their $50 guitar run because they spent the time to be worth the $12,000 guitar. You're making the point, and I wanted to shout it out there. Don't buy the freaking $1,200 knife if you're not worth the $1,200 knife. If you can't appreciate and use the finished work, you have no business spending ridiculous money on tools.
Yeah, and a lot of people just do it as like a vanity buy,
Yeah. And that's the consumerism we talked about a couple of streams ago that we just kind of hated.
Yep, absolutely. I hold on a second. I'm just seeing if Serge wants to come on. Oh well, I was just gonna see if Serge wanted to come on, but I lost the link for the stream. The thing is, a lot of people see throwing a lot of money at something as an almost a substitute for learning how to do your stuff right. Like I buy, you guys have seen my expensive bass, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, I have owned that bass for 7 years now. I bought it for my 40th birthday, but I've been playing bass for 30 years. I spent all that time making sure I'm not really good enough for a $5,000 bass, but I'm pretty damn close. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And so like I bought it when I felt that I was ready to have that sitting there as, just throw the extra work in to make me worthwhile kind of thing. But also I like having tools that excite me. Like I like having an axe that is iconic or sexy, that just taking it out of its leather. I sort of get, what James May calls the fizz.
Oh yeah.
I like having, this is a really cool knife. Okay. This guy, I contacted him. He was like, yeah, I'll make you a knife. And he sent it. And I'm pleased that it's the only one in this country. But like the iconic nature of the F1, I find exciting. It's, at the end of the day, it's a very, very utilitarian design. But because it's an icon, I find it exciting to hold this doofy, ugly ass knife. I think it's beautiful. It's exactly the opposite of what I mostly like, but I like having stuff that excites me, and it can be you gotta really watch it, because it's a finer line than you think between, I want to buy this stuff that really excites me to take it out and makes me really want to use it, and I didn't deserve that. That was way too expensive for where I am in my journey.
Yeah, no, I feel that. So I'm a music. For those who don't know, I'm a musician. I've played professionally in a couple of symphonies and things like that. And when I was doing my search for quote unquote the instrument, I have her now. But when I was doing that search, my teacher, he's still my teacher, actually gave me a really wise piece of advice. I had no business upgrading things until the things I needed to learn couldn't be done on what I had.
Exactly.
And there's so much that you can learn. I mean, like, garage sale, bottom of the barrel type gear that I'm sure most of us did. Like, I got one of those terrible unhardened swing axes that, transfer all the shock to your hands. But there's a lot to be said for learning edge alignment on a crappy axe and being able to screw up and sharpen a crappy axe over and over again.
Yeah.
Until you need to learn things that you can't do on that crappy axe. And eventually I got a council tool, Hudson's Bay, and that was kind of my jumping off point for learning to do things the proper way, rehelving it, putting a handle I liked on it, that sort of thing. So there's, I think, a lot to be said also for making sure you're learning on the right stuff. Not to say like it's a rite of passage that you have to use shitty gear or something, pardon me, crappy gear or something like that, but there is something to be said for learning and not spending money not appropriate to what you can learn at the time.
Right. Yeah. And it's it's related to something that I really feel about YouTubing, because I use it's technically, this is kind of an expensive camera. Did I pick up the right one? Yes. The 80D with this lens is, I think, about $1,600 in Canada. Okay. It's a lot less in the States, but it's an expensive camera, but it's still very attainable. If you decide you want to do this, it's a very good option, and it's not outside the realm of possibility if you work for it, kind of thing. I watch a lot of channels that I adore, and yet that really piss me off. I'm thinking about Matty Hapa. His channel used to be Travel Feels. He's a friend with with Peter. guy in Toronto. But like these guys, using Canon 1D Mark 7, $7,000 camera, $10,000 gear. There's a lot of guys using Reds now. It's a $30,000 camera. I'm thinking about Marcus Brownlee. iMac Pro, right? $10,000 computer on the desk and everything. And this is all what I call sort of going more TV Mark II kind of thing. Sort of pulling YouTube away from the really kind of grassroots thing that it can be and turning it into, oh yeah, I've got an office now and I'm using a $30,000 camera and it's all TV Mark II kind of thing. TV 2.0, I call it. Because people are almost inevitably drawn towards getting fancier and fancier tools and thinking that will make them better at, if you're a YouTuber telling a story, which is not going to work. Learn to tell your stories before you start buying extra gear. And in bushcraft, it's very, very similar. It's like what we're saying, learn to light your fires, learn to chop wood, learn to use knives, learn to build a Quincy or something, learn the skills, because that is where your real enjoyment comes from. Having an axe that excites you is a bonus on top of that. It doesn't replace the joy of being in the woods and smelling balsam fir and the magic of a campfire, and maybe you'll see a deer walk by. It doesn't replace any of that. If you get the fizz while you're chopping the wood, it just adds into a great day. It's not the point of what we do. Any more than, you do all kinds of stuff. You're making all the time. And the tools you use to make your stuff aren't the point.
Yeah, you're right. And I agree with you. I think the issue is that having the shiny new thing is always going to be more attractive than doing the work for the skill.
Yeah.
And at least to the wrong people, I should say. If you have the wrong attitude about it, that's going to be the de facto, operating, I don't know, slogan or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. There's nothing inherently wrong with saying, I enjoy having shiny new things more than I enjoy slogging my guts out trying to learn something difficult. But there is something to be said about not chasing the payoff of doing the difficult thing and then doing it with the shiny new gear after you deserve it and or can learn on it.
And part of deserving it is taking care of it.
Yeah, seriously though.
I'm constantly on and on about respect your tools, and I know people who don't. I know people who are just don't get it, man. And it's like, that tool, that axe is not sharp, guy. It's not sharp. That's dangerous.
Yeah, we always say this: sharp tools are safe tools. It's the dull things that bounce. The other thing is, you are disrespecting and kind of killing the potential that someone put into a tool. I have this Jeff White bush knife that I am trying to slave over at the moment that I just started being able to shave with. The thing is, if I had left this knife in a garbage pursuit, a garbage level pursuit of sharpening, I would have no business owning it because it would be no different from the knives you could buy at Walmart.
And that would be a shame because he's like retiring now, isn't he?
Yeah, Jeff White no longer makes knives large scale. If I'm not mistaken, Jeff White might actually not be living, but I don't think that's the case.
I don't know if he's gone yet, but I know that he was like, he'd taken on an apprentice because he was
aging by the time Dave found him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I've got his mini Nessmuk, but I want the full size Nessmuk.
Yeah.
Still.
And we consider ourselves lucky to have original Jeff Whites, that's, and it would make us kind of want to puke on the inside to see someone abuse these tools, because this is the kind of effort that you can't get from him anymore. And he put time into the design and the making of these tools such that their potential is to last 100 or more years. And when you get people who have this gear because, it's the shiny new thing, it'll make everything easier, they're not only hurting themselves in the long run by not learning the skills, but also kind of disrespecting the tradition in the trade there, not to appeal to just tradition itself, but in what people did. The amount of work they're standing on, they have no respect for.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny because I don't know if this comes from the fact that so much of the world is so bloody disposable right now. Because everything is factory made, or if it's inherent to consumerism.
Yeah.
Like, because consumerism isn't automatically factory made crap. Sometimes consumerism is patronizing small makers and stuff, but buying stuff rather than learning stuff. And there's a real sort of lack of appreciation for guys like Jeff White making those knives, obviously throwing a lot of effort into coming up with winning designs and keeping them really affordable.
Yeah,
they are honest working man's knives. They look like something you'd find in the 18th century because they're not jacklors. You know what I'm saying? They're not polished to that extent. The slightly rough look of these things is part of the magic.
Yeah, there's this almost old world sexiness about the tool that like this bushcraft draws like, oh, you know what? That's what I want to beat through a piece of oak or what have you.
Yeah.
But God forbid it's a Canadian belt knife. Don't baton one of those.
Don't.
Go
No
to
way.
hell, if you do that. But you see the tools, and you're right. I mean, there's definitely a lot there. And I don't know, maybe it's you know what, screw it. It's late enough. We're allowed to wax philosophical about this. I think there's something to be said. Wow, I've been using that phrase a lot. There's something we should say about consumerism as bushcrafters and people trying to quote unquote do the old thing. There's no reason not to reject all of this consumerism. Buy first, learn later.
Yeah.
Hello, Alain.
Hey, LA.
How are you?
All is well. Turn yourself up a little bit there. I'm just
a bit lower.
Yeah. Whoops. I just hit you. Sorry, dude.
Let me see what I can do. I haven't used this for a long time.
Actually, you sound okay. You sound
a
all
bit
right.
better?
Yeah. You in your workshop? I see some wrenches behind you.
It's my, I guess it's my work area.
Okay.
So it's my my unofficial workstation. So.
Okay.
Hey, it's Simone too.
On. Cool. So as you guys know, we're talking about maintaining your tools, taking good care of your stuff. Wow, Alain, you got a crap load of knives behind you.
Yes, it's my.
Oh my god. Nice rack, man.
Nice rack.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
I always had a passion for knives, I guess. We used to go out in the woods because we lived in Lorraine, and I would always take a knife with me in the woods. And at one point, I decided to go a little bit more fancier, and I got myself. She was the SRK, and I had this knife for like 20 years. And at one point, I'm like, why am I only using one knife for my entire life? There's so many knives out there. So, like a few years ago, I decided to start trying them out and trying different ones. And so I guess like you were saying, Jess, sometimes people have things that they buy that they don't necessarily need. But I'm 44. I'm not getting any younger. Sometimes I'm like, man, I've never tried that knife, or I wonder what that's like. So I started to buy a few, and now every time I go out, I bring a different one and I try different things. And so to each their own there. But I think there's nothing
there's also the point
really wrong with that.
There's also the point that different knives are made for different purposes.
Yes, yeah, that's true. And in fact, related to that, LA, I'm pretty sure you got some Scandies, right?
Yes,
I do.
You got some convex.
Yes,
I do.
Yeah, you have any hollow ground? Any concave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not sure.
When you're getting down with maintaining your blades after a day out. Are any of them very different than the others? Like, how do the different blade profiles affect your what you do when you're sharpening or stropping? Probably nothing, but
No, most of the time, look, I guess I use the same technique to sharpen them most of the time, but
okay.
it's more a question of like when you come back from someplace, if it's like when you cut wood and stuff, there's like a bit of wood that sticks to the blade, and that has to be cleaned off because that's what's gonna rust. Like it's not just a question of wiping it off. To me, that's the most important thing. Like I rarely have a knife that comes back wet, but I have a knife that has chips of wood that's stuck to, like it could be just some bark that's stuck to it, and that's what I want to clean off. So I take a brush that off, and like you say, I strop. Like you mentioned stropping a lot. That's what I usually do because I don't use them as much as I guess one person who has one knife that uses it for 3 months. I'm not that guy because I got so many. So, but I guess everyone's different there.
It's funny because what I've been doing is, I mean, this was my main knife for most of my bushcrafting, history, right? I always had a more on my back as sort of a backup, but this was my knife, and then this kind of became because I wanted to try out the stainless, but I also ended up with a Garberg, so I took that out sort of exclusively for a while, just to sort of force myself to use something I'm not used to, because this is my comfort zone, and you can see, like, I learned how to sharpen on this knife, so you can see like stuff like this everywhere on this blade. And as I said before, the belly part, I'm looking at the screen and I've got this finger way too close to this blade, so I'm going to look at the blade while I'm doing it. But the belly here is, to me, the hardest part to sharpen. I'm like trying to not wreck the the beautiful sort of lines of it and everything. But this, I'm at the point now where I like for my bases, I just, when I'm going out to do a show, like tomorrow night I'm playing at Hurley's, I'm just going to grab whichever one I feel like while I walk out the door. One of them was $5,000, one of them was $1,200. They're both great, and I just grabbed the one that I want that night. And I'm getting around to, I think that's what I'm going to be doing with knives. My concept is the carbon one comes out in the summer, and one of the stainless ones is more like a wet weather or winter knife kind of thing. But I don't know if I'm going to stick with that.
Well, that's the thing, is you get to try. That's the fun part, is you get to try one base one night, another base another time. Yeah. Maybe in 2 years from now, you can be like, you know what? You're going to go to a store, you're going to see a base, you're like, wow, I like that, and you won't even know why. You're just going to look at it and like, I want to buy that.
Oh, there's one already. Let me tell you about it. The money. But it's the same with knives. Like I have a bucket list of knives. I'm not going to own them all because I don't think that you should attain everything on your bucket list necessarily. Like on my very last day on this planet, I still want to be dreaming about something. I knew an old guy. Well, he was a grandfather of my fiddler, in fact. And he'd always wanted, like, I think it was a Lincoln he'd always wanted, and he was like 97 and his car was all done. So he bought himself an Acura. And Peter asked him, Gramps, why didn't you buy the Lincoln at this age? And he said, because you've always got to have something to dream about. So I don't think I'm ever going to attain everything on my bucket list. I have bucket lists for everything, right? Bases, knives, axes, things I want to do and stuff. But it sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Any of these that I go into the woods with, okay? Any of these that I go into the woods with, because when I get home, I'm going to clean them up almost right away. The whole concept of carbon for summer, stainless for like wet weather or winter or whatever, it almost doesn't matter. It matters if I'm out for more than a day. If I'm out on, in the depths, or I'm on like a saltwater shore for a week with my carbon blade, maybe not. Like maybe then I'll be damn sure that I bring this or the carbon, the stainless, because stainless click, right? You imagine doing that with carbon steel?
Yeah, you get a big rusty plate of metal.
I'm sorry, but I've lived for about 10 years in Eastern Quebec, where weather is unpredictable at best. So at some point, I just chose to go ahead with my life and just, okay, stainless is fine. Why bother with carbon at some point? I do respect carbon, but it's in some way it is not the way that I'm using tools or knife. I got enough of maintaining the hacks that I'm or the should.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get.
Yep.
If I can control, stay with it. Is it better than carbon? Yes.
It kind of doesn't matter, does it?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Steels. If it was a stainless steel of 50 or 60 years ago, of course.
Yeah.
Nowadays, doesn't matter.
Wow. The thing is, it used to also be like steel is steel, right? But now that with so many super steels and everything.
Personally, super steels are like mid-modern century furniture. They were all over the place at some point. Everybody has their own risk to make it work better in their minds.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, D2 is still there. 12C27 from Sandvik is still there. Yeah.
I still like a one tool still.
I have one knife made of super steel. It was a Bark River I saw on Amazon, and it was being sold as a used knife. I never saw that on Amazon before, and I jumped on the opportunity because it was $100 off. So you don't laugh at $100, right?
No, you sure don't.
So and everyone talks about how great Bark River knives are. So I'm like, I bought one. So I haven't had a chance to use it. It's sitting on my shelf. So I'm looking forward to spraying like crazy there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you have it with you? You want to just sort of show it off? Because I have a yen for a Bark River. I'm probably not going to get one, but.
So this is the Gunny.
Yeah, the Gunny. That's a classic knife.
So, that's funny because the only super steel that I've used so far, well, I do have an S30V folder that I have, but the real super steel that I've seen so far that works the best is on the planes. Lee Valley has their power metal for blades.
They sure do, yeah.
Just, I'm sorry, that one is simply awesome.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I think a lot of it depends on your goals with your blades as well. I mean, for someone who wants absolutely tip-top performance out of their blades, go nuts. If super steel meets your needs, then by all means, do it. For me, I want something that I can self-reproduce and accurately work with if something ever happens to it that is, catastrophic. And for me, carbon steel is the answer. I'm satisfied taking care of it. I'm well equipped for it. But I'm also not opposed to the guy who wants to come out there with, whatever your favorite quote-unquote super steel might be and say, I like my knife better than yours. And I say to him, I like my knife better than yours. And we go our separate ways and use our knives.
Yeah.
No, but to me, it's not a competition. Like, I'm not trying to outdo anyone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, if carbon steel's for you, I have some carbon steel knives that like 1095 is a proven steel for bushcrafting knives. It's tough, but you got to take care of it, right? But if you like taking care of it, if it doesn't bother you, that's great. Like, I'm trying this new steel because I heard great things about it. It's not just the steel; it's a great knife. It feels great in your hand. It's a thick blade. Like I said, I look forward to trying it in the field.
That's the Gunny, right?
So yeah.
Yeah, it's not for nothing that the Gunny is like an iconic blade.
So, but I don't. I wouldn't make anyone feel bad for like, hey, how come you don't have a super steel knife? Like you have to be a jerk to go around making fun of other people if they don't have like quality. Well, quality. 1095 is quality, right? I guess if you buy a 440 A knife on Amazon for $15, it's like, oh, it's stainless steel, but it bends a lot. Like even that, it doesn't rust, but
yeah,
it doesn't stay sharp. But I mean, that's for that one person. But anyways, just to say, I have nothing wrong with any. 01 is great. What is it? A2? Is that a very popular steel? Yeah, so I'd be willing to try that too. I like to try them all, to be honest. But it's expensive. That's the only thing, is you have to really have a passion for it. Because if you want to have like other hobbies,
forget about it.
You won't be able to do it.
Yeah, I get it. But like, what's the steel that Gunny is?
It's the CMP S35VN. CPM, sorry, S35VN. So
have you tried to sharpen it yet?
Nope, I haven't had to. I've been testing it out on little pieces of wood here and there, doing little things.
Yeah.
And it's still as sharp as I got it. Another piece of paper here.
Zach Fudge states it outright.
Yep. What Zach Fudge said there is absolutely. By the way, hi Zach, and yeah, that's a very good point.
So anyways, just to say, I'm a big fan of these knives, but it's my only one. It's my only super steel. I look forward to trying it. Maybe I won't even like it. We'll find out. But chances are, anyways.
Yeah, I don't have anything in super steel. I don't feel I'm lacking, but I'm a classicist. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I like.
No, but the F1.
I like old school stuff, right? I like old school stuff in many different contexts, and with steel choices and stuff, I like the tried and true, just because for 01 I know exactly the effort it takes to sharpen. I know how long it keeps the edge, and I know that it's a bloody easy steel to work with. If I'm going to try a new steel that I haven't tried yet, because as you said, man, even at $100 off, that knife was probably not cheap.
It's a 300, I think it was 330, and I got for 200. So it was even more than $100 off.
Right.
But it's my most expensive knife. I don't have 20 of these. It's one knife.
Yeah.
So.
But like even a $200 knife, if you kind of hate sharpening it, it was an expensive mistake. If you don't like the edge that it maintains in the field, like if you're constantly taking the diamond stones to it, the little diamond plates to it in the field or something, then it was an expensive mistake. If it's a carbon or something and it rusts at the drop of an excuse, then it was an expensive mistake. And that's what keeps me from hey, Wood Pigeons here, how's it going? That's what keeps me from diving into that kind of thing. I watch Dutch Bushcraft Knives all the time, and these guys are into the super steel.
They're so good at sharpening.
These guys are over the top, but their knowledge and their skills are bang on. If you can see past the sort of aspect of them, they know their stuff, and man, their sharpening is so good. But the thing is, if I was like, you know what, next month I'm going to spend $400 on a knife, I would watch everything they'd done over the past year. And because the way they test their stuff convinces me that if they hate something, they're using it worse than I would. But if they really love something, then I will never have reason to regret my purchase. But even then, I'm still walking in like blind, right? Because what they never talk about is, unless it's a real dog's breakfast, like how hard it is to sharpen something, or because these guys are skilled at that. Whereas I am almost a weekend warrior when it comes to sharpening, in that I don't do it every day. I'm not one of these guys who every time he steps into the kitchen strops up his kitchen knives. I kind of want to be, but having my wife and kids looking at me like, you already did that today, Dad. But because I don't spend that much time, like to me, sharpening it's not central to my kitchen experience or central to my daily stuff. What guys like them can just do, I would probably have a much harder time with, especially when it comes to getting that mirror finish on their bevels. Holy crap!
Yeah, I know but you see, again, they have a passion for knives.
Yeah,
they started their channel more for like bushcrafting, and then they said, you know what, we really like knives, and then they just switched their channels from bushcrafting
to knife
and the comedy, like they put on a show there. But they do a great job when it comes to presenting a knife that they're honest about it. Like if they like it, they're gonna say it's great. And like they love Mora, and they sold me the Mora Robust.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the hell out of that thing, and Moras are so good. It's unbelievable that they can make such a great blade.
Yeah.
On such a low price. I'm surprised they don't make more wooden knives, but I guess that's their brand.
They do some, like, isn't it the number one has a wooden handle? That real classic, real sort of plain.
I
kind of
don't
want one.
I mean, they do sell pretty well in their blanks as well. I mean, we all forget about that, but Mora blanks are pretty great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
and
by the way, nothing will teach you how to
some sales.
You what?
In stabilized sales for knives and stabilized wood. They're making a gun stock of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
We're not seeing.
Yeah. Well, no. If you if you go to a guy like Jack Lore, he stabilizes all the wood that needs to be stabilized, right? Because you don't have to stabilize everything. You don't have to stabilize desert ironwood, but you should probably stabilize something like curly birch or like oak or maple or something.
Spalted bird's eye.
Yeah, you better stabilize that.
I wish I could stabilize wood myself. Like I've seen videos, but the equipment needed, I just don't have the room.
I would be afraid of blowing something up.
Yeah, where are you going to get a vacuum pump and 40 pounds of God knows what else to stabilize a bunch of chunks of wood in?
Well, that's the thing. These guys who do it. If I was a serious knife maker, it would
complicated as you may think.
Yeah, but it's still. I mean, if you can't just. I decided I'm gonna get into welding, so I buy a welder. I'm gonna make a knife, so I get a knife stabilizing setup. I'm gonna, I would like to, when I rehaft an axe, I'd like to be able to put Rain Dance Bushcraft on it. So I spend money on a laser etcher. In a universe where people have finite amounts of room and money for their hobbies, a knife scale stabilizing setup for me comes fairly far down the list.
No, I totally agree. That's what I'm saying. Is I wish I could. I don't have the room, but right now I don't even have enough room to make knives. So it'd be totally useless to. I make knives. I used to When I used to go visit my mom, I have the garage. It's still set up with all of my things there, and I'll make a part of a knife on 1 month, and then another part another month, and I end up making one knife a year. So
Yeah.
I gave up on it.
Yeah, it's hard to. I have the same problem with woodwork. You know, it took me 2 years to build my damn workbench. What, you know?
But I have a few knives that have plastic scales, and I wanted to maybe make micarta or stabilized wood scales, and that's possible. It's a lot easier to do, but at the same time, I don't have it's expensive to buy all this equipment. So
Yeah, it sure is.
yeah. Right now,
I think
it's just regular wood and some boiled linseed oil. That's what it turns down to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're all of the opinion that if you want to get into something, it's not worth doing badly either.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
The few
absolutely.
tests that I've done so far with stabilizing wood were pretty simple. And fortunately for me, my wife didn't seem to bother when I took the pressure cooker out of their kitchen. Um,
Of course.
but
Why
yeah,
do my
basically it
potatoes
was
taste like linseed oil? some
Fair
some
enough.
broccoli, piece of wood.
no.
Tastes
I've
like
tried
resin.
out. I was fortunate enough to borrow a vacuum pump from a company that I used to work for a long weekend, and yeah, I've done some tests with it, and I was pretty pleased with.
Okay.
It is not rocket science at the end.
No, but anytime when there's this air pressure involved, you got to make sure you're doing it right. You know.
At the end, what's the difference between having to rent and purchase the argon gas to go in the TIG welder, or getting into vacuums? It's pretty much the same thing that you were dealing with.
I don't have room for either of them.
Yeah,
So in my
Well,
case,
you're
they're exactly
overpressure
the
in
same.
in both cases, you will
fair
be
enough.
either overpressure or underpressure in the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I don't weld with gas because it's too expensive. It's like I have a MIG weld, no, not MIG, an arc welder. So you buy some rods. It's
I
like
do too.
$20, but the gas is so
too.
expensive. But it's not for me.
And probably my arc welder will freak you out.
Oh yeah. How come?
They're dying to find what
Okay.
is. They are directly taps on the transformer to.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never even seen that. I didn't even know they made that.
I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Many of the things that Simo has are unique.
There's a few things, yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's cool, though.
That one is probably as old as my father was. So.
Wow.
I suspect it was from the 40s.
Wow, that's crazy.
But it works, and I'm sure I won't burn that, and I won't burn that transformer.
Truth.
We need to do two guys freaking welder hall to lift it out.
Did you learn to weld on that welder?
Yep. I've learned to weld maybe. We're the same age, Alain. I learned to weld maybe 30 years ago on a farm, and I relearned welding a couple of years ago. But on that welder, yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and 6011, 6013, 70 70, 18, no problem with it.
I learned to weld.
The only thing
Go on.
The only thing that I haven't tried so far is to weld stainless steel with, because I didn't had chance to.
But you need special rods for stainless, right? You need like stainless steel rods so it doesn't
Definitely.
mix. Yeah, I learned to weld back when I was in CJEP on a MIG welder, which is a lot easier because you have the continuous flow. Yeah. But then someone was teaching me with a rod weld, and it took me a while to learn to do it and to adjust the heat. But I could just imagine having to change it from secondary to primary to I don't know how many different coils. And so no, that's not working. That's too sticking, or that's burning too fast. It's yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I've learned the first weld that I've done was actually brazing,
with brass,
which is another way to do oxyacetylene and basically adding brass and silver and anyway, that was my first weld that I've done.
Yeah, and this goes back to what we were talking a few weeks ago. Like, if you learn to do things yourself, you can save a lot of money.
Yeah, you sure can. Now, guys, we got 4 minutes until the end, so I'd like to do a little sort of rapid fire. When you guys get in from the woods or whatever, you four here, what's the first tool or tent or implement maintenance you do? We can start with whoever wants to go first. Simo?
Clean everything.
Hmm?
Just clean everything. There's no way you can. Yes, you can prioritize the middle stuff, but at the end you need to clean everything. There's work.
Yeah, it all has to happen tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to get back from the woods with fairly clean blades, whatever it's axes, shovels, or. But yeah, it's basically just clean everything out. I'll probably spend 4 to 6 hours when I'm back only on cleaning and making sure that everything is fine for the next time.
What I do? Yeah, you Alain, what do you do?
My clothes.
Your clothes.
Nobody wants stinky t-shirts sitting in your back for weeks.
Yep.
That's so true.
But I agree with Simon. You just do everything in the same day, and like that, you're sure that you didn't forget anything, and you go step by step. And by the end of the day, everything's in order. And like if you have a knife or something that's wet for a few more hours than the other thing, it doesn't really matter. So I agree with Simon.
What do you do, Tyler? What's your first thing?
I mean, they're pretty much right. But me, I am the first thing I maintenance. I actually take off everything I'm wearing from the woods, put it in the washer, and shower myself, and I feel better. And then, they're right. Your bag kind of explodes. You clean everything and sharpen it and oil it and put it away.
Yeah, what I do is I empty I take out all my tools.
What I was about to say is there's a few things that I'd like to do outside on daylight and other stuff that I can just go overnight. Sharpening and stuff like that goes overnight. There's no way I'm gonna do it over daylight. Yeah.
Well, what I do is I put all my tools on the kitchen counter out of their sheets, sort of air them out. And dump the clothes in the laundry right away, like in the machine right away. Bag goes back downstairs. I usually hang it to air out a little bit. And then I just wash up my tools, sharpen them up, leave them to dry, oil them, put them all back. Every time I do the same process, and I've been successful in not losing anything to rust, not losing anything to rot, not losing anything to stupidity, you know? And the thing is, I want to just walk in, drop my bag, and lie down on the couch or kick back and relax, you know? But I've managed to develop a certain zen, especially like what I'll do now is I'll pop open the laptop, throw some Ray Mears or some like Sean James on or something while I do my cleaning, so that I'm not standing there, you know. Now we are at 11 o'clock, so
Yep.
this live stream is over. I'd like to thank everyone who hung out, everyone who was new. Thanks for hanging out. For anyone who may be watching this time shifted to tomorrow morning, thank you as well.
Thanks for having me.
And I hope to see you guys all.
Me as well.
All right, bye everyone.
Okay.
Night, gents.
Bye, guys.